its dependence on the Strait of Hormuz, the White House positively assessed that the first day of talks between Trump and Xi resulted in that. General Sudhakar, do you think this meeting, largely speaking, between the two leaders is more for making deals or damage control rather, or is it actually setting a new tone for the years ahead?
Yeah, it's a very sharp and brilliant question you raised, and my take on the whole issue is it has got more to do with the damage control. There is so much of geoeconomical turbulence which have been added one after another. You have people call it a triple T tariff, technology, and Taiwan. And as per my count, there are more than 70s I can add on. But the fact of the matter is that in the instant case, I think our viewers should do well to understand that the leverages which USA had, say 5 or 10 or 15 years back, are no longer there in favor of USA. It has got more to take, more to receive from China than to give to China. So when I say this, let me amplify by giving some examples. There are 400 companies of USA from where China is to buy beef. All the 400 companies have been banned. Not 1 month or 2 months, it's there for past 1.5 years. Take your mind back to 15 January 2020. There was an agreement signed between China and USA. It is called as the phase one of trade deal. 15 January 2020 in Donald Trump's 1.0 tenure. And in that deal, they had taken a commitment from China that China would buy extra products, additional products worth about $200 billion by 31st December 2021. That was the timeline when Trump was finishing his tenure. Did China buy a single product against this commitment? China and USA made lots of commitment to each other in the previous meeting in Korea and Busan. Has anything been implemented till now? I am a student, I would like to learn. I don't think so. So the fact of the matter is there are very tall promises being made, and Donald Trump is looking at, reopening. Incidentally, that deal which they had made earlier for purchase of 500 Boeings, China was to purchase 500 Boeings. That deal is closed. And therefore the Boeing leader is accompanying Trump this time with high hope that they will be able to reopen this deal. Look at the number of people, the employment opportunities which has got actually totally closed. Almost about 1.14 million people, primary, secondary, tertiary employment, kind of generation of employment in USA, it has closed down. Similarly, you are talking about soybean. There is a commitment which China is supposed to give in writing that 25 million metric tons of soybean will be purchased every year for 3 years from USA. And now, along with that, the corn also is supposed to be purchased. Likewise, there are many other, now you talk about the armed forces. There are a couple of critical technologies and the minerals. You talk about gallium, germanium, antimony. Then you talk about the magnets which are required for fin stabilization of the aircrafts, for stealth coatings, precision munition, and guidance system, etc. like dysprosium, terbium. These are all very high sounding words and terminologies. Samarium cobalt magnet is produced only in China. They're processed and produced 95%. And without that, the Patriot missile cannot be produced. This is the level of dependency on China. 90 to 95% of the rare earth element and the critical minerals are held and dominated by the processing I'm talking of by China. So ultimately, besides weaponization, unless USA mellows down its stance, starts appeasing China in some form or the other, Taiwan is one of them, they will be actually coming back with empty hands. So therefore, they're extra careful this time. They want to revive the economic stagnation or the setback they have had in the past. They want to come back with the deals which were made in the past, but they have closed down because of reciprocal tariff and whatnot and different kinds of punitive tariff measures. Fortunately, the Supreme Court of USA has given a good slap back, and also the 10% which he had introduced subsequently, that has also fallen flat on his face. So these kind of things, I personally feel it is much to do with the damage control that Donald Trump has done, because ultimately at the end of the day, the geoeconomics is the one which is creating a huge churn and going against the debt that it is mounting by the day. $39.1 trillion as in today in USA. This is the debt that the country, every year there is almost close to 1.9 to 2 trillion which is adding on to the debt. Every year they require 1.1 to 1.5 trillion dollars simply to service the interest. They require $6 trillion to run the country. The revenue generation is 4 trillion. So they have to make amends with China. And towards the second part of the question which you asked, you see, the departure in the orientation of USA foreign policy is clearly evident in the national security strategy, which was published in the first week of November 2025. They have not expressed the language or used the language which usually they used to do in the preceding decade or two, and they have clearly indicated to China, like Shruti very nicely covered, that you do anything you like to as far as Taiwan is concerned, but don't do anything across the Atlantic, and do not interfere with the Monroe Doctrine. Now they are calling it a Monroe Doctrine. So therefore, to put all these things together, my personal take is this is good as a optics. I don't think any tangible takeaway will take place to the priority one challenge before the world. To me, the priority one challenge is, will Strait of Hormuz open as part of the international water and be open for freedom of navigation? That is the priority the global order has to look at. That is the priority the superpower, two global powers are sitting together. They have to find a permanent and lasting solution. And in the same breath, let me also share, UNCLOS, the United Nations Convention on Laws of the Sea 1982, this is supposed to be the binding, it is the Bible as far as the maritime laws are concerned. And here is a superpower, and the USA is not a signatory to that particular agreement or that law. China does not accept the existence of this document, hence the 9 and 11 line, and it is defying, it has started contesting the arbitration court's directions of 2016, which Philippines had won. So under these circumstances, what do? What happens to the United Nations, the central organization, Global Apex Organization? Don't they have a role to play in this? These are the questions which we need to answer. Whether it will come through or not, that may be a matter of debate. That since we are discussing,
Right.
These are the issues which are coming to the mind.
In fact, a statement has also come in from Taiwan now. Taiwan has said that nothing surprising has come out of the summit so far, but Beijing should stop its military pressure on Taipei. Mainland Affairs Council Deputy Head and spokesman Liang Wenxi said if maintaining peace and stability in the Taiwan Strait is truly the greatest common ground between China and the US, then the Chinese Communist Party should restrain its own behavior of military intimidation. All right, that's the statement, Shruti, that's come out from Taiwan. But I also want to add on some more information to this. During the photo op between the two leaders, Trump had refused to answer questions on Taiwan. Is this a strategic win for Taiwan?
I don't think so. I think it's more of a loss until unless USA is able to, in public, in black and white, able to state that Taiwan's interest is USA's interest. It continues to be a bargaining chip that Trump can always squander away in his attempt to try and regain global dominance for USA and his own personal wealth that he has been trying to accumulate in the 1.5 years of power that he's been in. So Trump refusing to take questions on Taiwan is not a good sign for Taiwan itself. And they need to be wary of how much they depend on USA to maintain their autonomy and their sovereignty and their distinction from China. Because
But Shruti, let's not forget that China had already warned Trump over the Taiwan question, should one expect that Trump would actually openly back Taiwan when standing next to Xi Jinping?
That itself says if China has sent a warning to Trump not to talk about an issue and Trump agrees, that means USA is bowing down to the Chinese mandate on this particular question. And the absence of that particular line related to Taiwan in any form in the White House document, but here the Chinese documents are telling you that they've cautioned USA about their role in Taiwan and the Taiwan issue. So you can see how the two perspectives are being played out, as both my co-panelists have very nicely put it out for you, that the domestic consumption of this news is how it is being played out. For the Chinese people, it is important that the Taiwan issue remains to be an issue that Chinese stand firm on, and for the American people, it is that China did not dare to bring up the Taiwanese issue. So they're both playing out to their own domestic markets, their own domestic consumers of this news. But the very fact that we know that it was pre-warned, they do not entertain questions on this, and Trump abided as a guest. You could say that it was a good gesture by him, by that he was a guest at China and he decided to play by the rules. But when has Trump ever played by the rule if he was in the role of dominance? That means he finds himself not in a role of dominance, not in a role of control, and hence he is abiding by the rules. Otherwise, we've known him to be a very obnoxious guest, even a more obnoxious host. So for him to accept rules set by somebody else should send warning signals right through Taiwan, and they should look for alternate partners. I would like to move on at this point and probably have the other guests draw into this particular question in my mind that is floating, is that when China puts out a statement on Tehran saying that the Strait of Hormuz should stay open, this could probably be, in my mind and calculations, probably be USA's gambit, because they've been trying to raise UN issue on the Strait of Hormuz, calling it an international travesty, a violation of international laws, which it is. But let's assume that, let's first understand that USA violated international laws themselves, but they're not calling that their actions under the microscope. They're calling this particular strait under microscope. And with China, this statement, it could probably mean that USA is seeking UN intervention in military terms, because USA does not want to be the only nation going back home with body bags. And that is why Chinese will probably not veto any such directive that might come out from the Security Council or from UN, that maybe UN peacekeeping force will now go forth and try and open up the straits, and that would mean all the signatories, 170 nations, 180 nations, would then go back the statement by UN, because that's what UN's role is. And China not standing with Iran or probably giving an open-ended statement saying that the strait should be open means that it would probably not pass a veto on something like that, and that means Iran loses ground on the Strait of Hormuz question, because then it only has one other veto member that it could lean on, and that is Russia. So we are also hearing that soon Putin will visit both India and China in the months to come. So it seems that there is going to be more to this particular Tehran question, but as of now it seems that UN would probably not see a Chinese veto on a Tehran and Strait of Hormuz question.